We're going to look now at integrating a volume pedal into your signal chain. In my proposed starting point, I had the volume pedal up front in the chain, right after the tuner, and this is perhaps the most common place for it. However, we'll also look at how it can work in three other places in the chain: before distortion, after distortion but before delay and reverb, and all the way at the end of the chain. So let's talk about it at the beginning of the chain first, right after the tuner. The most significant thing about placing the volume pedal early on is that by placing it before any delays or reverbs, we can lower the guitar's volume without lowering the volume of these ambience effects. If the volume pedal is placed after the delays and verbs, lowering its volume would reduce or cut off those ambient trails. And most often, this isn't a desired effect since it really produces an unnatural result. Let's compare the two placements with volume before ambience effects and volume after. Now, another thing to consider is that by placing the volume pedal all the way up front, you'd be placing it before distortion devices, and this may or may not be to your liking. Basically, when you adjust the volume pedal before a distortion pedal, you alter the way and the amount that the distortion device saturates and compresses. Like I said, this might be desirable. So really, the volume pedal is just like the volume knob on your guitar, except that you're controlling it with your foot. And many players like to work with their volume knob to either drive their distortion devices harder by increasing their volume, or clean up the distortion by rolling off some volume. Let's check out an example. If you prefer a very consistent distortion sound though, you might prefer to place your volume pedal after your distortion pedals. This way, as long as your guitar's volume knob is untouched, your distortion sound will be pretty consistent. And then the volume pedal can act more like a master volume for your distorted guitar sound. Notice that the volume pedal is now coming after the distortion, but still before the delay and reverb, so that you can still get those nice trails even while reducing your distorted tone. And then finally, you can use the volume pedal simply at the end of your entire pedal board. This would act as a master volume for the entire chain. Now probably this isn't a common setup, but then again, maybe you aren't using any delay or reverb in your setup, and this can have its place. Or maybe you want to go for that unnatural approach and abruptly cut off those delays and reverb trails.